Welcome to Maine, we're stretched to the bone. Prices keep rising, the paycheck stays prone. Inflation keeps knocking, won't leave us alone. They're selling the lie, groceries climbing, the gas tank is low. The bill's hitting harder than snow, but silence still blankets the truth. Where does it go? They're selling the lie. Housing is gridlocked from Portland to the county. Workers commute far past what feels soundly. Talk of solution comes yearly, not loudly. They're selling the lie. They're selling the lie. Say every voice counts, but watch who gets lifted. Some stories vanish, some get the spotlight shifted. Depends on what trends and what keeps them gifted. They're selling the lie. I won't believe them, I wanna believe, but truth's always stuck in between. Static and spin, drown the signal again. Nothing is what it seems. I wanna believe you, but every headline turns daylight into redesigned skies. Facts get twisted, context missing. We choke on the simplified alibis. Wanna believe you, but all I see is shadows where the answer should shine. The fact is
Welcome
fiction.
to the Muddy Waters Podcast, where Mainers tell their stories, unfiltered.
Good afternoon, Maine. This is once again Chuck Ellis, and you're watching the Muddy Waters Podcast. As you all know at this point, the Muddy Waters Podcast exists to help the people of Maine better understand what's going on in our state, because unfortunately the mainstream media doesn't really want to tell you the truth. They just want to be a propaganda arm of the left, spouting lies essentially, and not reporting on some of the things that are happening that don't fit the narrative. And so fortunately we have great organizations like the Maine Wire, which does a great job sharing information. And on X, you've got a guy named Unquirer at Unquirer, and then also Maine X Community. These are some places that are actually bringing some light to what's going on. And we're kind of jumping in and doing that through interviewing people from around the state, like we are today, as you can see, who have experiences that they want to share about what is really going on in our state and what it's like to today stand up and be part of the resistance, we'll call it. That's what we decided to label this podcast. So thank you both, Abby and Jadyn, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. So Abby and for those of you who don't know, Abby and Jadyn are both students at the University of Southern Maine, and standing up as conservatives, seeking to speak truth and engage in civil discourse with people on their campus. And that, I imagine, is a very easy task, and people are very receptive. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Not for the most part.
Yeah. So before we get into that, I do want to get into that. Before we get into that, like, let's talk about like who you are, and like where you came from, and then we'll say what organization we'll say, just kind of give you some fun, primarily representing, and we can start with Abby, if that makes sense. We'll go alphabetical. A comes first.
So my name's Abby. I'm a junior at USM. I'm a political science major, so I've definitely always been interested in politics and government. It's a big part of my life. I grew up in a very conservative family, so I think that kind of pushed like how I believe. I run Huskies for Life and TPUSA at University of Southern Maine with Jadyn, and it's definitely been a really eye-opening experience. I think Jadyn will say the same thing. But yeah, I love what conservatism stands for, and I think I'm very proud to be fighting for that on our college campus.
That's awesome. And where are you originally from? Did you say
Wyndham.
that? Did I miss that? Wyndham. Okay. So you're
Wyndham,
from
yeah.
Cumberland County. So you're a conservative that grew up in Cumberland County. So you know the consequences
I do.
of being a conservative publicly. That's
I do.
good. That's good to know. And so you said the president of Turning Point. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And Jadyn, what about you? Where are you from?
Yes.
How did you come to be here?
is Jadyn Kerrigan, and I'm from Westbrook, Maine. I grew up in Maine my whole life. I'm also a junior at USM. I'm studying psychology with a minor in business. And it's funny because I imagine myself as a person who would never get into politics. I just think it didn't concern me. I just didn't think it was for me. But recently, up until about like last winter, I started, exploring on the internet, and I was starting to see these videos that was really challenging my ideology. And I really was starting to think to myself, like, okay, so I think, my beliefs and my values align with conservatism, but I'm just going to stay quiet about it. And I'm sure me and Abby will talk about this later on the podcast. But this past fall on USM campus, a Students for Life representative was tabling at our school, and it was all basically history from there. But that really lit something up in both of us, and we really felt called to do this kind of work and stand firm in our beliefs.
That's awesome. So you didn't start out on the conservative side, but you found your way here slowly, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't know if I just mentioned this, but I did mostly grow up in a Republican family. I just never thought about politics being an interest of mine, or further how I would even get involved. But
Sure.
I think just from my experiences of being in college and the opportunities that are presented to you, it really gives you a good shot to express what you believe in and to share that with other people on campus. But to answer your question, all in all, I think there was parts of me that thought I was on the other side. But then as I started to do my research, I was like, okay, it's all starting to come together and make more sense now. I'm obviously a conservative and I'm proud.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear that there is still this sense on the university, even though there is some resistance, and I want to get into that at some point. We're the resistance, I guess, is more there is, but a lot of pushback and backlash on college campuses if you stand up against the norm. But there is still this sense of it being important to have different views and values, and you to be able to speak up what you believe, right?
Of course. Yeah, and I think something the left often kind of will say to us is like, well, what about us? Like, why don't we like create a pro-choice group? I'm like, great, like you guys should create a pro-choice group. I think having both sides represented on campus is so important, and that's like one of the reasons why I'm so happy that we're starting these clubs, is because conservative beliefs were not on USM campus, period. They just weren't. And so I think that's why they feel so threatened with our clubs just kind of being very bold on campus. It's really threatening to have their ideology like challenged in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting how, despite being in such a minority, they're so afraid of you. Essentially,
That's like a good way to put it. I guess fear is kind of how they're feeling about our
I
club.
think they also feel, it's funny because they feel threatened by our presence, but we do not feel threatened by theirs. And I think it just really goes to show the way they're reflecting themselves onto us and how we reflect ourselves onto them. And it kind of creates this, they're bringing all this tension and all this fire, and we're just here. And it's like our presence by itself is bothering them.
Yeah.
Like, we're here to express, we're here to educate, we're here to have good conversation. And based on their responses, the hostility and the negativity, it's like they don't even want to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, that is definitely the sense that you get. And I think part of it is, and maybe you guys have some experience, but they label people who have conservative views and values as being Nazis, and saying that they're filled with hate, which is definitely the opposite of how I think we as conservatives feel. In fact, I think a big part of the reason that we speak up is because we care. Because we have love for them, but we believe that other people are on the wrong path. And we also believe that there are other people like us out there that feel afraid to be able to speak up and be open about who we are. But they label us all as being hateful and Nazis. And obviously you don't want to speak with a Nazi, right?
No, exactly. And I think too, like, I was so afraid for the longest time, Jane can probably speak on this too, to just literally just be like, yeah, I'm a conservative. Yes, I'm pro-life. yes, I don't like socialism, or like just like stuff like that. Like I was so afraid to say that as a young woman growing up in Southern Maine. That's like really hard. And I've lost a lot of friends. I've lost a lot of some of my family won't even speak to me anymore because of my political beliefs. So I hope that Jadyn and I and every young conservative can kind of inspire other young people if they're feeling like they're not represented on their campus. Like you are, and you don't have to be ashamed for being a conservative and, believing in those beliefs. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, definitely. To add to that, I think Abby and I, we want to inspire our generation and even generations to come to use their voice,
yeah.
because your voice matters. And like Abby said, losing friends and losing families, it's so unfortunate that it comes to that point. But I think as a conservative, we don't back down from what we believe in. And unfortunately, that comes with a cost, like I said, of losing people that are close to you. Um, but usually when that happens, it's usually coming from the other side because, like I
Yeah.
said, whether we're on campus or we're in professional settings or we're in private settings, like we always try to keep it respectful, keep it at a common ground. Because, like I said, using your voice and saying what you believe is so important. And I think that concept has become like saturated over the years. Like you're
Hmm.
scared and you can't use your voice. And that's an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, and Jane and I always say we're like, it's so awesome to like have your own opinion. Like it's so cool, like to have your own opinion. And that's like what America is built on, is like you can think differently from each other. So I think fostering that at USM is like our number one goal.
Totally.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also want to highlight something that I've only known you guys for a little while. I've met you at a couple of different events and and whatnot. But like you're not like what I'm hearing, right? And this matches what I think I would have thought is like there are people out there that are attention seeking, right? And so they would want to be the person who is the opposition on a campus because they're attention seeking. And like that's not who either one of you appear to be. And there are other people that I think we might know that maybe we might think that might be true of, but like that doesn't seem to be who you are, right? And so like
Yeah.
you're standing up in opposition to the fact, you would rather, I think, similar to me, because I feel like I'm in the same category where like I don't want to do this, like I don't want to be doing politics. That's the reality. I'm fine doing it at this point, but if our world wasn't going the direction that it is, I would not have engaged in this. And I actually had to get pushed into it. But because of how crazy things have become and how it's like, geez, if I don't stand up, who will? Since so many people are afraid to do so. And so I feel compelled to enter into this. But like I resisted for years. Many people were like, you should get involved in politics. And it was just, for me, it was just a non-issue. It's like, no, that's never
Yeah.
going to happen. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And like this is what I'm hearing out of both of you about, like this isn't something that you sought out, but it got to a point, something happened, I imagine,
Yes.
that we can kind of get into, but like that caused you to be like, all right, no, this has gone too far. Like despite the consequences, even if people choose to defriend us, right, I have to speak out and speak up, because if we don't, who will?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what was it for each of you that got you to, that kind of pushed you over the edge to be like, yeah, I can't keep quiet anymore?
I think I will never forget this. So I know this is probably a very like common opinion. Jane and I were together when Charlie Kirk passed away. I will never, like, I remember where we were. I remember her coming to the table and I was like, Jaden, like Charlie Kirk. Um, I remember when someone I know and someone I was very close with being like, well, yeah, I'm actually really happy that that happened. And like, I'm glad that he's dead. And I was just like, wow. Like, I was like, that is so crazy. Like, I have, like, if a prominent, like, liberal figure died, like, that's just not what I would, that's not how I would be thinking about that situation. Like, that opened my mind a lot. And I remember I posted on social media, I wrote this long message and I was like praying for Charlie Kirk. Like he was a husband, a father. And I got like 100 people unfollowed me, DMing me nasty things. And I was like, wow, like I'm all in. Like this is motivating me to step up because who else will? Like it seems like we're kind of like a minority on campus. So we have to speak up about this because it's just not right.
Yeah, same exact boat as Abby. I remember the day we sat down and we were just in such shock when we found out about Charlie. And I feel like she said, this is a common opinion. Unfortunately, a lot of people felt pushed to join this good fight and be a part of activism after Charlie died, because, you know, based on all the media and the left as well, just the celebration of death in general, not just with Charlie, but with other things that they stand for. They celebrate death. And I would hate to be associated with anyone who celebrates those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a coincidence the way it all panned out. We had just started the fall semester at USM. New students wanted to see what was available to us. We ended up meeting Matthew Ghazi, the SFL rep who was on our campus that day. He really inspired us to start a group. And then Charlie's assassination. And we were like, all right, that's it. This is God calling us.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, pick up the mic, pick up the phone, use your voice, free speech. You should be all in on this. We could feel the fire. Like,
exactly.
No more of this. No more. We are going to say what we believe in. And that is the end of the story, period.
And I think too, like, Jane will say the same thing. The signs just kept coming. Like, both of us are very faithful. I wear the armor of God everywhere I go, and there were just so many signs, like, get involved, get involved, get involved. Like, we just couldn't pass it up. It was Matt tabling with Students for Life, and it was Charlie, and it was our account, like our Huskies for Life Instagram randomly getting traction on like a random Monday. Like, it was so random, and it just kept coming, and then people kept reaching out, and we've made so many good connections. So it all happened for a reason, and we're really happy that we're involved.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that this story is happening and has happened all across the country. You know, turning points and things like that have sprung up all over the country in response to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, because he's like if you look at the stuff, all the stuff that's out there, his life is probably one of the most videoed lives in human history. Not the, I'm sure there's somebody else, but like it's up there, right? Partly because he knew how important recording this stuff would be, and as a number of people have mentioned, like he had a feeling that there was a strong probability that he would die young. I mean, I think I heard rumor. I don't know if I haven't corroborated this at this point, but heard rumor that he effectively said that he thought that if Kamala was elected, he would be arrested. He would be put in prison, and if Trump was elected, that he would be assassinated. He actually, this is one of the comments that I believe, again, I haven't, but I've heard that he said. But either way, I was there. I've said this a number of times on this podcast, but I was there when he was here in Maine, and I remember thinking in the room, despite like the fact that it was enclosed, and despite the fact that there was security, I was like, he could, like, this guy, the stuff that he's saying, while it's like true, right? I don't agree with him on everything, but like quite a bit, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just so against the grain of the official narrative, and he's boldly proclaiming it. I was like, he could die today. Like when I was there, I was like feeling it. And so it didn't really surprise me. And I was, and I after he died, I was like, this is where his life was always headed, given the current environment. And I don't know if you guys were at the event that we put on for him at the Calvary Chapel, South Portland, the Friends of, or Remembering Charlie Kirk, I think is what we called it. Weren't. So during my speech, I felt compelled to say, because it's something I'd been thinking about, is Charlie Kirk was assassinated because we let him stand out there alone. And not enough of us were speaking up and speaking out. And because of that, he was an easy target, right? And so that's part of the reason that happened. And this is where, and anyway, but as a result, so many people like yourselves are springing up. So that really kind of put a fire. It sounds like you were kind of interested in Students for Life anyway, and you were thinking about starting a club on campus, and then that happened and kind of really solidified that that's what you were going to do. And then after that, it was this really easy path to find an advisor and get established on campus. Is that right? Is that what I've heard?
We wish it was, but
actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was rough. It was rough. Jadyn was emailing every single day to countless professors, literally just being like, hey, we're Huskies for life, we support, because that's what we do. And I think that's also another misconception, which I can get into, is like, well, you're a pro-life club, like what are you going to do on campus? So that's like something that we're very bold with, and we do want to help moms on campus. We want to help the preborn, and we want to help moms. And there's a lot of moms on campus. There's a lot of mothers in college that might be really stressed, or maybe there's someone who's pregnant on campus who needs a sign to choose life, and that's what we're here for. And we made that very clear when we were emailing professors to like potentially advise our club. We were just like, hey, we're Huskies for life. We support the sanctity of life. Even when the child is born, we want to support them, like diaper drives, formula drives, clothing drives. Like, we're here for you. And it was just like, no, not interested, or just not replying at all.
So I'm confused. You're a pro-life organization. I thought your purpose was to shame women who have had pregnancies. Is that not what you do? You're not. Your goal is not to shame women who have had abortions.
Of course not. No, that's
not. Sorry. That's
no.
what the left told me.
Yeah, we actually offer a bunch of healing after abortion resources if anyone's interested. And we stand with you, regardless of your past, regardless of what you might have done. We just want them to know that like it's okay, and like we never want you to have to choose between you and your baby. That's the goal.
Yeah, and I think people on campus they almost like want to they twist our words on purpose, and it's like, oh, well, you only care about, them giving birth, and what are you going to do about this, and what are you going to do about that? And we're trying to explain, it's like, we're talking about one issue here.
Yeah.
We're one club in one small state. We're not looking to solve world hunger. We already know who our target audience is. That's moms and preborn children and their children as well. And I think it's really funny that it's almost like why wouldn't you want resources for moms on campus? It's like,
exactly.
Well, that's what we're giving, but they twist it, and you're like, oh no, you're taking away women's rights. What? This is a school organization. I ain't part of no legislator. I'm not on the, you know what I mean? It's like, that doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't, no.
So.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So this is like, well, the Students for Life part. So your goal is to come alongside women. This is the primary, what you guys are focused on at USM. There's other things that your organization can do, but you're primarily focused on, advocating and providing resources for primarily women who are considering an abortion, or women who have had an abortion, or women who had a baby and are struggling.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I think to be against that is like pretty telling, if I'm being honest with you, because everything that Huskies for Life stands for is so beautiful, and I think it should be represented on all college campuses. My heart goes out to every mom in college. Like, that must be so hard. I literally could not imagine. So yeah, that's the goal. It's just to help out. It's just to like be a helping hand if moms need resources, or need, like, we were just thinking like maybe like we could volunteer to like watch babies. If like a mom needs to go take her final, maybe we could like watch her baby for her while she can go study and go to the library and go take a final. Like, that's like, we just want to be the helping hand. We want to be the support.
And I think another underlying thing about our club is that like we want to break down the stigma of pregnant students. It's like, well, when someone in your high school gets pregnant, everyone's talking about it. It's like,
yeah,
oh, the pregnant teen. It's like, well, okay, so what? Like, yeah, it's not to say support teen pregnancy, support the pregnant teen. Like, I think people,
but they chose life.
Exactly.
That's all. That's exactly what we want. Like, props to them. Like, they chose life.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
Yes. And I think, like I said, like breaking down the stigma on campus about being pregnant, being a parent, like no one talks about that. No one talks about being a parent and being in college, because everyone thinks, well, you're in college, you're in your young 20s, you're figuring it out. No, that's not the case for everyone. So we are here to be that voice for mothers on campus and off campus, or students on campus who are just struggling, or might know someone else who is struggling. This is like a very word of mouth type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Nice. So I mean, I think that's awesome, and I imagine that maybe not yet, but some of the other stuff that you guys will do is kind of education around the process of, because like as painful as it is, and it's difficult for people to hear about. Like I
Yeah.
think one of the problems is most people are not educated on the issue, and usually I think when people get very often, I should say, when people get educated, their views tend to change.
Yeah, and I think it's important, especially like I know it's so hard to talk about, it's so hard to hear, and like the pictures are disgusting. Abortion, I always say abortion is uncomfortable. So when the left students on campus are like, "You're making us uncomfortable." Good. I hope we are, because abortion is uncomfortable. A baby's life being ended is not supposed to make you feel good, and it's not supposed to be comfortable. And I think having opinion on abortion when like you don't even have you ever seen an abortion? Like, do you know the three different types of an abortion? Like maybe form your opinion like after you are educated a little bit, and I think you might think a little differently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I definitely think, and then just another fun like
yeah.
fact or whatever. I think like there are a lot of crisis pregnancy centers, and there's one in the Portland area as well. And one of the things that they offer is like a free ultrasound. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is typically once like dad, I think, sees the baby in the ultrasound, it substantially reduces the probability of somebody choosing to have an abortion.
Yeah.
Have you have the data? Do you have any like quick pieces of information around life
So,
and
well,
yeah.
something that I always like to say, and Jadyn will say this too, like Planned Parenthood is not going to be there with you after you've had an abortion. They're not going to That's like a process that takes so much healing. Abortion is not easy. Planned Parenthood does not care about you once you've had an abortion. Is the first thing I'm going to say. The next thing I'm going to say is that we always get this question. Well, what about babies in foster care, or what about victims of rape or incest? Like that is less than like 5% of all abortions. 95% of abortions are done out of inconvenience. I think that's so telling. I think basing your judgment on such a small sliver of abortion is not a fair judgment at all, because most abortions are not from those things. They're from being pregnant and being inconvenient for the mom.
Yeah, I saw this statistic online. I think 74% of women feel pressured to abort because of financial responsibilities, which totally makes sense. But, that, like Abby said, the numbers tell a story. It's like there's women out there who are in crisis. And, us, among many other organizations across the country, we want to stand out to them
Yeah.
because we want to help them. Planned Parenthood doesn't care about
No.
you, body. And I think, they do a really good job of displaying a narrative that they care about you and that abortion is healthcare. But when you really think about healthcare is about supporting and sustaining human life, not ending human life.
Exactly.
So that's where all the social media back and forth using very selective language, I think that all kind of stems from that. But again, as a pro-life club in Southern Maine and just being pro-life advocates, like we are here to speak out against all those lies that are being told to women, because at the end of the day, abortion is oppressive to women.
Yeah, it's so oppressive. And I think too, we had this little like pamphlet at our first table. And like another question we get is like, well, what about all the other services that Planned Parenthood might provide? 89% of Planned Parenthood services, this is from their website, by the way, it can be fact checked, is abortion. It's not gender affirming care or sex education or reproductive health. It's abortion. And I think that's such a huge lie that Planned Parenthood is telling women, because it's not a sexual like reproductive health center. It's an abortion center. Like period. That's what they stand for. So
And I don't have many like statistics on this, but there's been tons of, evidence and people disguising themselves as if they were to get an abortion to expose Planned Parenthood. But what they do with those babies after they are aborted is absolutely horrific.
it's disgusting.
I'm pretty sure they, sell the body parts on the black market or whatever they're doing, even if they're just disposing them in the trash. It's just absolutely horrific to think that's the reality. And women are seeing that as justice for themselves, like my voice. We actually had a conversation with a young woman at our tabling event, and we have fetal models to literally display, because sometimes, like Abby was saying, like, people don't actually know what's happening during an abortion. You need to actually see it with your eyes. So we have these fetal models, and it's like 10 to 12 week year old fetus. And I just asked the girl, I go, is this your body? And she refuses to answer the question. And I'm like, no, exactly. And it's really funny because at our tabling event, we had come across a lot of pro-choicers. We would just get to a point in our conversation and they would just go silent, or they would do a little scratch on their head. And we're like, so we're breaking down all the pieces. I'm trying to figure out how you got to this conclusion of abortion is healthcare. That's not a human. That's a clump of cells, right? So we finally get to that point of conversation, and it's just interesting to see that pro-choicers tend to step out of that conversation once certain points are made up.
I agree.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. They're obviously not informed on the other side. Which even if you're pro, even if you're pro-choice and you think you're going to remain pro-choice, you should. I mean, like, I think we should be teaching kids in school. I mean, this is a principle. Like, how do you teach? One of the things that they used to do in school is they would have an issue, right? And they would take people and say, okay, what side of the issue are you on? Okay, if you're on this side, you go over here, and the other side, you go over here. And then they would have them argue the other side's point. Like, this is like in like teaching people how to debate, right? Like, you should know, like, from the other perspective, because we should be people who are seeking truth. And if you're seeking truth, you don't just learn from your own indoctrination center, your own people who agree with you. You go and spend time around people who don't, and try to understand, why do they believe what they believe, and why are they saying what they're saying? Which is why, like, it makes you should. I mean, this is the whole idea of like the democratic system. We're technically a republic, as they say, but it's a democratic republic. Our people are democratically elected, and one of the most important elements of democracy is this idea of free speech, because with free speech, with different ideas coming together, that gives the opportunity for us to find truth. If we only can hear the side that agrees with us, that's how the powerful people control people, right?
Exactly.
So it's one of the bedrocks of freedom. And so, like, even if you don't agree on this issue, like, you guys should definitely be there, and people should not be trying to discourage you from existing, which is interesting. So you were, I think we'll go back to the story where you were, because we got distracted. Great conversation, but you were emailing whoever you could to try and figure out how are we going to find somebody on staff who's willing to step out and be your advisor, because the way that clubs work on campus, and as a public university, they can't deny you the ability to have a club, but they do require that you have a faculty advisor, and a staff or faculty advisor. And so, you have that is a hurdle, being a conservative organization at a very liberal college in a very liberal part of the world. And so, you emailed a bunch of people, and then what happened?
Jadyn,
so what happened was, I was, like Abby said earlier, I was emailing individual professors, and I found that to not be a great idea, because I was just either outright ignored, or I would just get a no. And then I even emailed the dean of students, and he's like, I'm unclear. We went a little bit back and forth. He's like, I'm a little unclear about what the club's about. So I explained it further in detail. Standing here for the sanctity of life. Want to support moms and their children on campus. No response back, which I thought was so unprofessional as a dean at a university. Alongside of that, I ended up emailing departments. So I was reaching multiple professors and faculty staff members at once. And Christina Parker's mother happened to work in the English department at USM. And Christina gave me a call, and she mentioned Ryan Tuttle, and I was like, that's my professor, and I was just too afraid to ask him because I thought he might be liberal. So it's very ironic considering that my own professor, you know, was conservative and he was right under my nose the whole time. But I had to go through some obstacles to actually get to him. So that's how all of that kind of panned out. So.
Yeah, well, I think it's tough, like, to give a little bit of sympathy to the dean of students. It's like, it's a very controversial like issue where most of the people, and I'm not saying that it's okay, but like most of the people, like, I'm sure he's sitting there like, who in the world do I know who would want to be the faculty advisor here? Yeah. I mean, like, what percentage of university professors these days are conservative, right? Especially, you know, in this part of the world. We're talking Portland, you know, especially when pro-life tends to go along with religious, right? And Portland is one of the least churched or the least religious cities in the country, right? And so the idea that you would find somebody working at a liberal arts college, which are more liberal than the average person, you know, that in one of the most liberal segments of the country would be okay. And what's interesting, and Ryan's a really interesting character, and I hope to have him on in the near future to kind of tell his story, because it's a very fascinating story in and of itself. Because like up until recently, I don't think he would have categorized himself as conservative, and I don't actually I actually had a conversation with him, so I don't think he cares with me sharing this. He's pretty open at this point, but like, you know, he wouldn't even necessarily define himself as being pro-life. He's more pro-free speech. And he, even though he doesn't 100% align with the mission, vision, values of the pro-life movement, he believes you should have the right to speak.
Exactly. And he said that too. He was like, this is not something that I normally, you know, sign off on, but like, you guys deserve a space here. We deserve a space there, period. It doesn't matter if you disagree with us.
Yeah, and
it doesn't.
It's sorry, Abby. It says a lot about Ryan's character as well, because as he's mentioned, like, he's like, this is not something I would typically like stand out for, but he wanted to give us an opportunity to express these opinions. And not only that, he has been an amazing person helping us network with like-minded people like you, Chuck, inviting us to events through Leadership Institute. And I think Abby can agree, just being part of the pro-life movement, being a conservative, all the people, the networking, especially living in a small state like Maine, like all the community, it all kind of just falls in your lap, and it's kind of just all naturally come to us. And despite all the backlash we've gotten on campus, we've received an enormous amount of support from people on and off campus, which is amazing.
Which is something that I also just want to say, like, we are so grateful for everyone who have like reached out to us. Like, I've had people reach out to me like, hey, like, I just want to let you know, I think it's like really beautiful what you're doing on campus, blah, blah. And like, you know, we've had some campaigning people reach out to us. Now Jadyn and I thankfully have gotten involved with the Protect Girls Sports petition. So we're collecting signatures for that as well. It's just opened up so many doors for us, and we're so thankful. So
yeah, that's really awesome. So yeah, I think it's been really great. And what's interesting is, like, I think Ryan himself, like, the part of the reason that he's in the space where he's willing to do this for you guys is because he's tired of what they're doing. Like, again, free speech is really important to him, right? And so like the fact that they're like trying to clamp down, and I think we'll talk about this when he comes on, but like they're trying to silence him as well.
Oh my goodness. That's a whole other thing that they're trying to do. They're trying to like get him fired. Can you believe that? Like, let that sink in. We're trying to get a man fired because he thinks differently than you. That's crazy.
And like, they have so much time on their hands that they were printing out flyers with Ryan's face on it saying, this man wants to control women's bodies. He's a bigot. He's a fascist. He's this. Just out on campus. It's like, wait a minute, really? Like, you guys had so much time on your hands. You are so, this is what we were saying. You're so bothered by our presence that you had to go out of your way to just completely just try and like silence Ryan, silence us. It's like, that's not what college is about. That's not what democracy is about. It's like, you guys almost like go against what you say you believe in until someone doesn't agree with you. So they love free speech until we use speech that they don't like.
Well, in order to save, oh, go ahead, Abby.
Sorry, are you sure? Okay. I agree, and I think it's so telling. I always say this. A comment we get so much is like, you guys are violent. You guys are like, this is so threatening. You guys are promoting this violence on campus. You should see some of the things that they have said to Jadyn and I, like either through direct message or in our comment section. It's absolutely just like, it's disgusting. I think that's pretty violent and that's pretty threatening from the left to claim that we're like causing all this violence on campus. It's I don't even want to say some of the stuff that they've said. A very popular comment that went viral that I think Fox kind of like held on to was like, oh, like these students got to be careful. Like, don't they know what happened to Charlie Kirk? That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's a threat. It doesn't get much more threatening than that. So
Yeah. Well, and it's no surprise, right? Like we saw
yeah,
again, number one, people celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, and then they were horrified. I'm talking about people on the left that celebrated when we started talking about this is going to create 1 million Charlie Kirks. And then you saw them putting up stuff that says kill all Charlie Kirks, right? Like and so like it's their version of the world is they have this weird utopia, right? But in order to get to that utopia, they kind of have to eliminate, they're kind of Thanos, right? They kind of have to eliminate half of the population.
yeah,
Right? I mean, that because they literally, I mean, think that we're the problem. MAGA extremist. Gee, MAGA is most of the country at this point.
Trump won.
You know,
He's still your president. Half of America, more
He's
than half
not a
of
king.
America voted for him.
The king. He's not. What? That's a whole different conversation.
yeah, that is a whole different conversation. But it's true, right? It's crazy that and again they call us violence and they say that we're encouraging violence, and they literally committed violence and are threatening violence against you. And that's crazy that this is a world that we live in at a university that's founded on the principles of liberalism. And when I say liberalism, I mean classic liberalism,
Yeah.
which is the idea of the plurality. Like this is a place where people and ideas with different perspectives can come together and seek truth together, and we can all be benefited by one another. Even if I don't agree with somebody who's pro-choice, I learn stuff when I have a conversation with them and understand who they are and where they're coming from and why they're coming to this conclusion and what challenges. This is one of the things that I think we learn in particular in this is like, what are the societal challenges that we have that we need to address? Because I don't know that maybe there are some people out there, but for the vast majority of people who are even advocating for the pro-choice movement, I don't think they're like getting their jollies and saying, yeah, let's kill babies, right? I think they see a problem in our society and they see this as being the best solution because of the overwhelming weight that it is for these young women, which is why what you guys are doing is great, which is providing support to them, whether they've had, are considering, or have had the baby, right? Whatever it is, there's support, because the reality is what's going on in our society is that so many women, and I think that we could make an argument of two things, in my opinion. One, men got to do better. Like we just do. Like that's a big part of this, is that men are not stepping up and being men. They're being cowards. They're being lazy. They're abandoning women. They're putting women in uncomfortable positions.
And I'll pause you for one sec. Why aren't we teaching men to respect women's bodies? Maybe that will, right? Like that's something that we can advocate for as a pro-life group. Why not teach men to respect women's bodies, period? Instead of looking at them like object, and maybe creating a space where hookup culture isn't normalized so less people are getting pregnant. Maybe that's a thought.
Or just a sex education system. Like if you're a teenager or you're a young adult, like you should be discussing with your partner who you're being intimate with, like what your plans are if you happen to get pregnant, as well as like health history, like STDs and STIs and all types of things. Like it needs to be talked about. And I don't really know where I feel like Gen Z, our generation, kind of got lost in the mix of communication and taking responsibility. Like I like to say, like they're like, pro-choicers are always like bodily autonomy. And I'm like, you know what bodily autonomy is? It's actually taking responsibility for your sexual actions. I call that bodily autonomy. That's just me. They'll argue the other side of that, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
So.
I made the argument years ago because when I was at college, I remember I was talking to a fellow guy, and he's like, I'm pro-choice. I think women should have the right to choose. And I'm like, yeah, you can have the right to choose whether or not you want to have unprotected sex, and get, like, I mean, I'm outside of the extreme cases where women are raped, obviously, right? That's
course,
not
and
what I'm
that's
talking about.
terrible.
That's horrible, and I
Yeah.
have strong words and actions that I think we should take as a society to men who do that. I think we need to be strong. And I think this is a big part of the problem. Is like we have this interesting thing in our society where we 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 obviously see and recognize that big problem of how men are doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. That is a reality, and they're not taking the responsibility that they should be taking. And yet we don't want to penalize them. Like our society is like, oh, but we don't know what they've been through. And so we've got, it's like, no, we need to be like, especially with men. This is, men and women are different, right? Men need a kick in the butt. Kick in the ass. That's just the reality. That's what they need in general. And society's like, oh, no, we can't put them through that stress. It's like, no, we have to. Otherwise, we get here where men aren't doing what they should be doing, and they're getting away with it, right? There aren't really substantial consequences for men who abandon their children. Instead, the government starts paying for their kids. Right. And we have this broken system, and we need to address it. And it's more than simply the babies need to be born. They do, but we also need to address the problem of what I call the deadbeat dad, or the sperm donor. We could use that one sometimes. Anyway, but these are problems that exist in our society. And free speech is really important to kind of get there. So you finally found an advisor. And after that, it was a simple, easy process to become official established clubs. Okay, the story continues.
Yeah, so basically, it took us weeks to get approved by Student Senate. There was always something wrong with our constitution, like Title blank was not where it was supposed to be, or this or that, and it was just okay, sending it back. We were literally like, we were annoying about it, but I'm glad we were. We finally got our club approved. It took so long. There was so much pushback from Student Senate. We finally got approved, and we were approved for probably, I would say, like 2 or 3 weeks at this point. I remember I was at work, and I get a text from my friend. And keep in mind, this friend is a pro-choice friend that knows my beliefs, but she still respects me. And I got a text from her, and like, I didn't even know what Yik Yak was. Like, this was not, I did not know what that was. And she texted me.
Most people, probably most people watching don't know what Yik Yak is.
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
Yeah, so
or
Yik Yak is
you can
basically
share.
like an anonymous platform where you can kind of join your college community. It's not run by your college at all. It's not affiliated at all. But you kind of put in like your EDU email, and you're basically connected with other students at your university. And we started to go like viral on Yik Yak. And I remember she was like, "Hey, are you seeing this?" And I'm like, "What? Like what?" And she was like, these people like found Huskies for Life Instagram, which was up for like 2 months at that point. And they found it, and it was literally just like insane. How could this be allowed on campus? And yeah, and I have a theory. Well, I know this. It's not technically proven, but I know that someone from Student Senate leaked that we got approved, because how else would this be public information that we're an approved club? And we probably know who it is, but we have some theories. It had to be someone from USM Student Senate probably made the initial post. Did you see that this club was approved? You wouldn't know that unless you were a part of Student Senate. So it all just it was bombs from that point on. It got to the point where we were like afraid. Like, it was very scary for us. We were afraid to go to school, and we were afraid to, like, we made our Instagram accounts like private, because I was having people comment like on my personal Instagram, like, "Oh my gosh, look at this." Like, they would like come for our looks. They would be like, "Oh, they looked like they're a product of incest or this and that. Can't believe these women, blah, blah, blah." I'm just like it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. After all those responses, like Abby said, like I said, it was just like a bomb dropped. We were like, what is all this commotion? It was on Instagram and on Yik Yak and on this.
Oh my
and on
gosh, yeah.
And you can imagine both of our families were a little concerned for our safety going to school. And, you know, I had to bring it to someone's attention. I had to bring it to the school's attention because it just got to a point where it's like Abby and I like don't feel safe on our campus. The principal, the dean of students, you know, probably should have sent out a message being like, hey, you know, very broad, just like,
which they still haven't done, by the way, which I'll say that we think it's absolutely ridiculous that
so
violence is on campus and it's not
yes.
talked
So
about.
everything that Abby was saying, after all the responses, after all the comments, you know, we had to take matters into our own hands. And I was like, okay, well, I need to go to USM Public Safety. Like, I'm going to go to a police officer. And this was right before our tabling event. And we made it very clear. We were like, we want some type of security at our tabling event because I already shared Abby and I went back and forth sharing the screenshots of all the comments and the hostility that people were saying. And we're like, we have every right to feel safe here. So can we get someone to stand with us at our table? So the day before our tabling event, I went to the police officer at USM and he made me write a statement. We basically just talked about everything we had been talking about via email, just like what kind of threats we were getting. And he basically told me all of the comments, you know, via social media were not criminally threatening enough to actually report or do something about it. But there was multiple comments plotting death on Abby and I, on me, like they're plotting death. And he was almost like not in denial about it. He was very supportive in the way he was like, oh, you guys should be able to do this without being, you know, afraid. But he basically like refused to stand with our table. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, well, I'm not gonna, you know, there's people around. If something happens, call 911. Or I'm like, well, what do you mean by
What are
that?
you here for
Too
then?
late. It's too late by the
Yeah.
time I call 911 because I don't know, you know, I don't know what these people are. You just don't know nowadays. And
Yeah.
it a little frustrating that we weren't actually provided any type of security on our tabling
No.
event.
We probably saw like the dean came and checked in once or twice.
3 times. And then I
yeah.
saw the officer wave at me. I was like, hi, can you
And-
stand here?
And
No?
it was definitely, I'm sure other members of our group can attest to this as well. It was scary sitting at that table and having probably 50 students just surrounding us, yelling at us, screaming at us, recording us, posting, like it was crazy. And I don't know. A part of me wonders that maybe if it was a left-leaning group and it was conservative students and it was kind of swapped, if they would have stepped up. I don't know.
Probably.
Maybe that's I assume they would have. I think I'm sorry. I think it's pretty awful that USM didn't, you know, how sometimes when there's like a crisis at school, like the dean will kind of send out an email to students just being like, hey, maybe just something about free speech would have been nice. Like, hey, every student can have these beliefs regardless of, you know, a political affiliation. Nope, not one thing, not one word.
I mean, that even would be, I mean, I think if I were in your shoes, I would be appreciative if they had done something along those lines, right? However, like this is like, we live in a country, right, where, again, person that we largely agree with, 98%, 99% of what the man said, was murdered on a college campus.
Yeah.
For speaking truth, what we believe to be truth, or as people are fond of saying these days, speaking our truth or speaking his truth or whatever, but we believe speaking truth, right? And you're kind of doing the same thing. And people have literally made comments suggesting, well, you saw what happened to the guy you like.
Plotting death.
Is that not enough for maybe like a security officer to stand with us? Like I think
a security officer should have stood with you. And I think a message from the dean specifically saying, look, you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to agree with this other man said, but you have to respect their right to speak publicly, freely, openly, without being afraid for their lives.
Absolutely.
It is unbecoming of a student of the University of Maine, University of Southern Maine, to behave this way and speak this way, even though they have the right. They don't have the right to plot people's deaths, but they have the right to speak freely, and we're not looking to take that away.
No, not at all.
it is not that does not make it good or appropriate behavior, right? We have the right to do a lot of things that are not good and are not healthy, but we don't have the right to, we shouldn't be, I should say, trying to make people afraid. I think that's something that absolutely should have come from the dean. This is incredibly inappropriate behavior. And yeah, and she, whoever the dean is a coward. Yeah, that's the short version. Yeah.
And I think that's why Maine Wire picked up on this very quickly. And I think that's part of the reason why, yes, the threats are terrible. They're disgusting. They're awful. But why is USM silent? Why? Because
even if, no, go ahead.
Like I said, I guarantee if this was a pro-choice group or, you know, some sort of like
LGBTQ,
or like something along those lines, if this happened, it would have been, I guarantee
all about
bigger. Yeah. And Maine Wire picked up on that really quick. Fox picked up on that really quick. Students for Life. We have an article with Students for Life now too. I think it was pretty unbecoming of USM, and as a student, I'm pretty disappointed.
Yeah, and you should be. Yeah. So you guys don't just do Students for Life, you also do Turning Point USA. And so what are you guys working on with that?
So Turning Point USA is technically not approved because of just reasons. We're just struggling just like with like finding an advisor is hard, and I think Ryan didn't kind of want to like take all the heat for, you know what I mean? Like I was trying to branch out and trying to find another advisor to advise our club, so maybe Ryan wouldn't feel like he's the only conservative professor on campus. So that's in the process of being approved. Which
so you have an
that?
advisor. You have an advisor now. You have found one,
I
or
guess,
are you still?
I can't like say exactly, but like it's getting taken care of. Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
I was gonna say I might have some ideas if you need
it's
them.
getting
So
taken care of, thankfully. We're really excited because with Turning Point, we can do a lot of like joint tabling events with Huskies for Life, since we are involved in both groups. It'll be very easy for us, even like club meetings, joint tabling, maybe during Husky Fest in the spring or next fall semester, which is basically an event where clubs table and students can join. We can just have a joint table because obviously we believe in the same principles. So
yeah, and I think something else we're also really looking forward to for both groups actually is inviting some guest speakers. I think it'll be really cool just to have people come on to campus and talk about certain topics, because I feel like as a club, us making the effort or trying to invite people, you know, from all different places, coming from different perspectives, I think just gives a good look for the club. But I also love the professionalism of it too. Like we met some really nice people at that Republican cocktail party, like Reagan Paul and what was her name? Heidi.
yeah, Heidi
Sampson.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, just people like that. We're really excited to have them come speak in the spring semester.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think it could spark a lot of good conversation, and yeah, it just gives us an opportunity to learn more and listen more.
Yeah, and any chance we can get to put more conservative ideology on campus, we're going to take that. It should be represented just as much as the left on campus. So we're happy to have anyone speak. We've been in contact with some people through like Leadership Institute. Maybe they can help us like kind of figure out where we can go from there. But we're definitely going to try to have some speakers in the spring, which we're really excited about.
That's awesome. Well, you'll have to let us know so we can help get the word out for you, and pray for you when those things happen, because you've seen what happened up at USM or SM. Nope. UMaine when Representative Laurel Libby spoke up there recently. There was a huge protest because she shouldn't be allowed to speak. I guess that's the theme I'm getting, is that if you're a conservative, you shouldn't be allowed to speak in the land of ideas. Yours needs to be eliminated and stamped out. And then what's fascinating about this is they also accuse us of banning books because we don't think kids should be looking at porn at school. And yet they don't even think we should be able to speak.
Yeah. So
crazy. Yeah.
Crazy. What's that word? Wait, I forgot what the word is called. Oh my gosh,
it's a crazy world in which we live, is what I'll say, and just that this is where we're at.
Hypocrisy. It's
hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's crazy hypocrisy. Like I said, it's always free speech until someone disagrees with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and there are a lot of prominent voices out there saying this. I know I've seen J.K. Rowling say this, and Elon Musk are basically saying free speech means that is most important when it's people saying things that you don't like, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Otherwise, it has no value. It doesn't really exist. If we
And
only
that's what makes America so beautiful, is that we can have different opinions. We can all think differently. That's why we're America, and we should foster and we should cherish that, especially at USM. So
the land of the free. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you shared a lot already. I mean, I think that experience of, like, I can't even imagine what it was like, but what's crazy is you're both people who, like, were not really interested in the limelight, we're not seeking out attention, and found your way to be at a table on a campus with a bunch of people who hated you, and you were afraid, but you still went. You still stood up. You still spoke up in being afraid. And you must have seen, obviously, there is unfortunately a very eventful weekend, or like past couple of days. And I don't know, we don't know enough detail about what happened in Brown, at Brown University. I think that some people are suggesting it was a political thing because there was the vice president.
I saw actually, one of the people who passed was like a Christian.
Cook. Cook.
She was the vice president of the Republican Club. Yeah, but she wasn't the only one who died. There was also an individual who appears to be, like, based on the name, we don't know somebody's views based on their name, but when your name is Muhammad, it usually means that this person is a Muslim. It's just not necessarily a Republican, although you could be a Muslim and a Republican. But anyway, it's unclear exactly what happened there. But, like, the reality is, like, we do know that there is political violence against conservatives, and this is one of the craziest places. And so, like, the amount of courage that it would take to be there without protection, I think that, like, I don't think we can't do enough applauding for the courage that you two have. And there are others. There are a number of other people. You don't have to share all their names, but number of other people involved in what you're doing.
Oh yeah,
right?
I have about, I would say, like 12, 13, actually probably more than that, club members in each of our clubs. So I mean, it's something.
Yeah. So I think there's also, like, there's those silent speakers that don't want to speak up, and they're too afraid to be affiliated with us, or they don't want to express their opinions on campus. But I just think with the presence of TPUSA and Huskies for Life, with a consistent strive to reach our campus and speak out on campus, I think that slowly might trickle in some people. Like, we even had a young gentleman just pass us by after the event was happening. He was like, "Hey, like, heard about you guys. You guys are awesome." Like, he didn't even stop.
I was like, get involved. Like, what's your email? I want people to get involved.
How do I get signed up? He signed up right then and there. Because you can imagine, we didn't actually have many club members sign up that day. It was more just let's sit and scream at them and record them. But we have hope that with other future events, that whether that's people passing by in the hallways or just contacting us via email, direct message on Instagram, that we can find those students and that they can feel some alignment and be a part of a group that fulfills them and also aligns with their values, and should make them feel comfortable and make them feel heard too.
Exactly. And, like, if I have a message to, like, if any college students at USM or any college students, like, that are watching this too, like, I just want you guys to know, like, you are welcome on your campus, period. Despite what, university or, like, students might be saying about you, like, your voice matters. Conservatism is so awesome, and I encourage everyone to get involved and to speak your mind and to speak the truth, because someone has to. And like I said, free speech is awesome. So,
and I'll add to that, just know that we were once in your shoes. We were,
so afraid.
afraid, didn't want to lose friendships, we wanted to stay comfortable, and we knew that wasn't actually going to get us anywhere. So we wanted everyone to step outside their comfort zone because it'll only do good for you.
Yeah.
I would agree. Like, one of the things that I've noticed myself, again, I for many years was like part of the silent, I don't know if I'd call it a majority, but part of the silent group of conservatives who, like, it's not that I was afraid of what I believed and whatnot, but I didn't see the value and benefit of me, and I was also afraid. I think that's a piece of it. I might not have admitted that, but maybe I would have. The job that I was working, there is legitimate concern that if I'm open about this and people know this about me, they will actively work against me to destroy me, right? And some people, I think, did that anyway because of I was open about my belief in Jesus, but I wasn't like sharing my political affiliations. I was being cautious about it unless I got to this point where I had a good level of trust with somebody, and I was like, okay, they won't burn me. I'll be honest about, I'm voting for Trump. That kind of thing. But like, it's unnerving. And so I am now, like, more obviously the chair of the Cumberland County Republicans to do this podcast, right? I'm very out there. But what I also do, like other stuff, I do business networking. And what's been really interesting is, like, because it's out there, like, some people make comments about it. Some people who know that I do that and are also conservative, they'll make comments about it, which leads to other conversations that I'm not necessarily actively seeking out. But what's been fascinating is finding how many other people have similar values and also feel like they're in the minority, right? And like, the reality is, like, more and more, I'm like, oh, there's another one. Oh, yeah, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And more, I think that, like, I definitely think in this part of Maine, there are more people that are more liberal than conservative. But I think there's a lot more conservative minded people than we think there are, but we're afraid because we're keeping quiet and we're keeping to ourselves. And one of the most effective ways to silence people and to win is to make people be afraid and to make sure people stay silent, which is why two young women speaking up and speaking truth and standing out on a college campus in a sea of people who supposedly disagree with them is so frightening to the left, because we don't need to be a minority to wake a majority to wake other people up. And you guys are bringing hope and encouragement to other people on your campus, but also off your campus, like all throughout. Like, people who have heard your story and are going to hear your story are encouraged by the fact, like, geez, if they can do it, why can't I? So I just encourage you with that. Like, even so, you see some people who are coming and telling you, thank you for, like, it's great that you're here, but there are other people who are hearing about it and knowing about it, and it's encouraging them, and you may never hear back about it. And so I want to encourage you with that it's like, it's these small steps that begin the path. It's almost like, unfortunately, like, metaphorically, not in actual reality. Nobody's shooting any guns, by the way. But metaphorically, it's like we're storming Dunkirk. Not storming Dunkirk. We're storming Normandy. We're going on the beach of Normandy right now, and it's like, it's a scary situation to be a conservative in New England, and be open about it. But the reality is, I believe that the victory in time is going to be ours as we continue to speak truth and stand up, and people see, because a lot of people saw. You've got people who are kind of more radically anti-Charlie Kirk and to the point where they were celebrating his death. And I'll tell you a couple of things that are happening. One is, some of those people are feeling bad about that, right? They're realizing, they're like, wait a second. How did I get to a place where I thought it was good to celebrate the death of somebody who, though you may disagree with him, was an incredible person and just wanted to have conversations with people, right? That is happening. There are people out there for whom that's happening.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And there are also people who were more moderate or even liberal who are seeing what some of these people have done and are like, there are problems here. And these people are reevaluating their own views and values, because, like, it's obvious that the liberals at this point, the Democrats, they're lost. They've lost their way. I would say that, you turn back the clock 20 years, you could say that there's something respectable in what the Democrats were fighting for. Now
Yeah,
there
for
are a lot
sure.
of long-term Republicans who will be like, nah, no, they were always bad. But the reality is, like, I don't think they were completely bad. But now it's like,
It's so different now.
Yeah.
Like it is.
yeah,
It's just so different. It's just so hateful. It's for a,
Mhm.
for a party of peace. It's not that peaceful to me. It's not. It doesn't feel peaceful. It doesn't.
Yeah. A lot of my older family members describe kind of what you were just saying, Chuck. Like 20 years ago, it was a whole different story, but now I think a lot of them don't even really know what they stand for, and I think a lot of that has to do with heavy social media influence, especially with women in our generation, so Gen
Yeah,
Z.
for sure.
yeah. Well, there's been an onslaught for, I remember, like, so if you turn back before me, I'm older than you, obviously, quite a bit, but still not that old. To the point where I remember the time where television shows were primarily focused on teaching morals to kids, and like, if you turn back the clock to like this, you know, before the 80s, and maybe even at that point, but I think there was a shift that happened where television became more focused on entertainment and then really molding and shaping people, than about teaching good moral values, which is, again, what it used to. It was entertaining, but it would also teach good moral values, right? And it shifted to the point where it really is trying to teach people to hate children, right? To hate men,
Yep.
and to hate oneself, really, in
Yeah.
so many ways, and to promote this, like, selfish, like, narcissism that is so prevalent in our society at this point. And then because, like, here's the reality, right? They're pushing moral corruption because a morally corrupt people is an easier group of people to control.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
always say too, like the left, like even when like there's issues obviously of like abortion, that's like a good issue, I guess, to tie into this is like the left hates the idea of a family and like a strong male figure and like it's all this like, oh, I can be an independent woman and do all these things by myself and it's just like you can, but like that's not gonna be as fulfilling for you. And like the idea of a family and the idea of like abortion, like that's why the left loves abortion, and because they don't like the idea of a strong family and those types of conservative values because they know that it fosters conservative children. You know,
Mm.
That's
that's
a
how I
big
feel.
part of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. We've got a fight, metaphorically speaking, on our hands here. And again, people like you, your willingness to stand up, I think, gives people, the older people who have been fighting for a little longer or whatnot, more hope that there is hope. And I'll just kind of share this little anecdote, and then we'll see if there's anything else you guys have to say before we wrap up. But I remember during COVID when things got crazy and I was very dark, like 2020 and 2021 were very, very dark periods of time, in terms of like the suppression of information, freedom of speech being under assault, and them trying to force vaccinate the entire population, and there are all these concerns, like parents being investigated by the FBI. Is a very very dark time, and so I was looking for hope, right? And so I one of my favorite periods of time to study is World War II, because, like, one of the things I think about with World War II is you see humanity at its worst. But what also comes alongside at the time where you see humanity at its worst, you also see humanity at its best, rising to resist the evil that was trying to take hold. And during that time, what was really interesting is I read a book on the French underground. And what's interesting is, so this is like the Nazis had conquered basically Western Europe, They had the entire, all the way from, where France and Spain all the way to their border with Russia. And so they had this whole thing, and, Europe, England was technically as part of Europe, but, they were still autonomous or whatever. But during this time, there was an underground movement of people who were sabotaging the Nazis and things like that. And it was run not by adults. Adults were afraid partly because they had kids and they had families to take care of, and they were afraid that if they get caught, what's going to happen to my family? So who was running the French underground? Teenagers. Wow. The youth. The youth were the resistance. And here's an encouraging moment where you guys are helping lead the way and being willing at such a young age to speak up and speak truth and not be afraid and not back down. Because people are vile, and Thanks. That's awesome. So, anything else you guys want to share about what you guys are doing or what you've got going on, or how can people find you? I think is one thing that
if anyone watching or anyone who just wants to contact us in general, we do have an Instagram page for both clubs. For Huskies for Life, it's just Huskies for Life USM on Instagram, and if there's an email, you can also direct message us to get involved or get in contact.
I think, Abby, your sound's a little bit off, so maybe we can have Jadyn say that part, because I don't know what's going on, but it's very muffled. Me now?
It's still muffled.
Here. Try this. Is this muffled?
I don't.
Well, you'll have to try it at length. It might be your internet connection that's causing problems. Can you hear me now? But
okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Did you hear? Okay, I'll just over. We have an Instagram page, Huskies for Life USM. You can DM us, or we also have an email, huskiesforlifeusm@gmail. It's in our bio as well. And then for a turning point, it's just TPUSA 2_U Southern Maine.
Sorry, yeah, it's doing it again. What's the turning point one? We'll have Jadyn say this.
TPUSA__U Southern Maine, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the Huskies for Life Instagram. You can also, Abby just said this, but huskiesforlife@gmail.com.
Huskiesforlifeusm@gmail.com.
Huskiesforlifeusm@gmail.com. And then we have the TPUSA Instagram account. So that's three sources to reach us.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing what you're doing, and we look forward to seeing where things go from here. And I'm really excited for the future, because I think, again, there's a reason they're afraid, and it's because if you speak truth, like, people are going to realize the truth, and they're going to be convinced.
He froze for me. Did he freeze for you? Okay. Oh no.
What bad timing.
I know.
Where did he go?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm back. Sorry about that, ladies.
No worries. We were like,
bad timing.
Well, anyway, so thank you guys again for speaking up, and again, I'm hopeful for the future, and thank you for sticking around while my technology messed up. Internet connections are not perfect for anybody. Technology, it's beautiful, except when it doesn't work, which it seems like it malfunctions a lot, but it would probably just notice it when it malfunctions. But anyway, I just want to thank you guys again, and look forward to seeing where things go from here for you and for us here in the state of Maine. So hopefully there'll be more fun stories to tell in the future, and we can have you guys back on in the future, and see you around at different events. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And everybody else, we'll see you back here, I believe, tomorrow morning. I've got Maine's National Committee woman, Lauren LePage, is going to be joining the podcast. So we'll see you all back here tomorrow. All right.